That is Dick Vermeil. Coach Vermeil, thanks for a few minutes, and how are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on. So give me your reaction when you heard the passing of the defensive mastermind of Buddy Ryan.
Well, I knew that he was ill, so I wasn't surprised. But I'm disappointed, and because we in the coaching world really respected him as the character that he was, as the coach that he was, as the personality that he was, and he was a friend. So, the great thing about him, he's added 2 sons to the National Football League, or contributed 2 sons to the National Football League. So his legacy will live for a long time.
So you coached the Eagles from 1976 to 1982, and then Buddy Ryan got the head coaching job from 1986 to 1990. And I don't think we'll ever see another Buddy Ryan again. His personality was just so unique. We were talking about it in the open of the show, where they had the whole Buddy Watching You, that song, and then they had the Bounty Bowl, and then running up the score up against Dallas. You called him a friend. Just expand a little bit more about your relationship with Buddy Ryan, as people will always have you guys in elite fraternity being head coaches of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, I didn't know him well, but I knew him well enough to enjoy him. I broadcast some of the preseason games he coached here in Philadelphia with Tom Brookshire, so I got to know him that way. I got to know him as a coach, and I coached against him when he was at the Bears, and in fact we beat him in the playoffs here. Remember that? And anyway, you respected his revolutionary approach to schemes on defense. He would do things you would say that are not sound, but he'd do it anyway and get it done and win with it. He would take chances. He would gamble. And he would attack your rear end, I'll tell you that.
And he was so honest, and he just fit really the culture of Philadelphia, that blue-collar mentality. He really had the perfect personality to coach the Eagles, Coach.
Oh, yeah, I think the fans, for the most part, really identified with the guy. And, of course, these fans, anytime you win, they'll identify with you. And he won enough games to earn their respect, believe me.
And then he also coached the defensive line for the Jets that won Super Bowl III, beating Johnny Unitas. And he was the mastermind of that 85 Bears defense, got carried off the field, and then did a pretty darn good job in Philadelphia, like you were mentioning. Just as a football guy like yourself, someone that has been so involved with the game over all these years, just describe to me what his defenses were like, looking at them and preparing for them.
Well, the number one thing, they were different. They were different than what you faced every week. For the most part, in the National Football League, most defensive teams, at least from a basic starting point, were all the same. But when you prepared against his defense, it was totally different. Now, he would still use some of what everybody else does, but he would always add a percentage of his scheme that was totally different. And you, as a head coach or offensive coordinator, might say, hey, you can't get away with doing that. Well, I'll tell you something. He did. Okay. But, people later caught up with the scheme a little bit, but you still see that defense as a change-up within the National Football League. But, they throw the ball so much more, and it was more of a run defense, a pressure defense.
How much does his sons really just remind you of Buddy Ryan? Because Rex, when he was the head coach of the Jets, and now even being the head coach of the Bills, he always has those zany press conferences, is never afraid to really speak his mind and tell the truth.
Well, I was raised differently, okay, in regard to that. I was raised by the George Allen, the Chuck Knoxes, the Tommy Prothros, the John Ralstons as head coaches that I work for. And they told me to never overload your rear end with your mouth, And Buddy used to do that from time to time, but he didn't care. I didn't have the kind of courage that would allow me to do that.
And you guys really are the complete antithesis, like you were saying, of coaching, but you guys both knew how to win games and really give the fans of Philadelphia something to cheer for. The one similarity I will say, your players adored you, and I also know that Buddy Ryan's players, seeing the amount of kind words on Twitter today and Facebook, really adored him. Just how special is that connection with your former players, even after all these years from being removed from the game, Coach?
Well, it's relationships. Part of my process of building a football team, and my situations where I was always in the process of rebuilding a football team, was to develop relationships with the core of the team, so that their preparation, their work, their togetherness was more than just individual or selfish. It was all about the team and the relationship they had with the coaches and the players and around them. So to me, that was very, very crucial in my approach to coaching.
We're talking to Dick Vermeil, who we usually see each and every year at the Super Bowl. We missed him this past year as he wasn't there, but he does a tremendous job with Vermeil Wines. We'll get to that in just a second. Let's get to this current group of Eagles, Coach. Carson Wentz, what do you like or dislike about the new Eagles quarterback that we probably won't see this year?
Well, I like what they say about him. I've never seen him play, okay? So I like what they say about him. I went to practice one day. I liked his size. I liked the strength of his arm. His mobility and the things they can do with him in terms of running. I just think he needs a lot of work, like all young quarterbacks do.
And really, you're right, because I've never seen him play a game in college. The only thing I've seen him was the Senior Bowl, and there's only so much stock you could really put in the Senior Bowl, and it's a nice skill set, but you want to see how the guy plays on Sundays. When you get a quarterback in training camp in these early stages, how do you decipher if he's going to be a good quarterback or not? Are there things early that you could see and say, hey, this kid has it or doesn't have it?
Well, number one, how accurate does he throw the ball? Okay. Number two, how accurately does he throw the ball under pressure, game day, and with somebody in his face? And you have to add all those things because he can be big, fast, strong, intelligent, and a number one pick. But if he doesn't throw the ball accurately, he isn't good enough. I think his whole question will be the development at a real high degree of accuracy.
And you had so many good offenses, and everyone hopes that Carson Wentz is going to be that next preeminent player in the National Football League. And you take a look at him, and we've seen so many different philosophies over the years. Sometimes a quarterback comes in, he has to learn a little bit and wait before he sees any time in the playing field. Or we see something like a few years ago where they throw an RG3 and an Andrew Luck right out there, or even last year with the Jameis Winston and a Marcus Mariota. If it was up to you, how would you manage the development of one Carson Wentz? Would you throw him in there right away, or would you make him wait a little bit?
It all depends on who he's playing behind or competing with. If he's better than the guys that he's competing with every day on the practice field, then you play him. If he's not, then you don't. They don't reduce the amount of a season ticket based on the quarterback. Okay, so. To say we're going to let him play in the games and get beat, let him develop losing, and not play somebody that's more mature and better because of all the experience, you're not being fair to your team. You're not being fair to your fans. They want to come and watch a team play. But I think it's very fair to say in the evaluation process, he looks better every day on the practice field. We're going to play him.
As we're talking to Dick Vermeil, who joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show, and a quarterback that is in front of him, and I don't think we'll see that much of Carson Wentz in the early ongoings of the season. There was a report out there the other day by Jimmy Kempski that Wentz may not even be dressing on Sundays with Bradford and Daniel and all the money that is going to them right now, and Howie Roseman did dismiss that report yesterday. But with Sam Bradford, that was an interesting scenario. He was disgruntled when the Eagles went out there and selected Carson Wentz. A lot of people thought Bradford wouldn't be back on the team, but now he's here again. To me, I think this is a good opportunity for Sam Bradford, who hasn't done a whole lot in this National Football League, Coach, and he could go out there and really showcase his skill set, and if he plays well, maybe the Eagles could get something back for him at the end of the year.
He will play well, okay? I promise you. I watched him on the practice field a couple of weeks ago. I was extremely impressed with him. You can't throw the ball over a long practice period, which was 85% passing, any better than he threw the ball with a wide variety of throws. So I was very impressed, and I think it's going to, when Wentz takes over, he will definitely be great trade bait.
Well, that's some interesting stuff as we're talking to Dick Vermeil. Coach, before we let you run, we got to get to Vermeil Wines in just a second. But what advice would you go out there and give to the new Eagles head coach and Doug Peterson, just being someone that understands the breakdown of the city in Philadelphia?
Well, number one, I'd be honest. And if you can't be honest, then don't say it. Tell the fans the truth. Don't talk down to them. Talk to them. And I think treat him with respect. The other thing I would say is make sure you coach the owner. Make sure you develop a relationship with him so he totally understands what you're trying to do, your process, your relationship building program, your value system, that he understands all these things. He understands the highs and lows. in the process, and you do that. And then surround yourself with better people than you are, better coaches than you are.
Well, we did miss you this year at the Super Bowl at Radio Row, and I texted Tom Ward and I said, hey, there isn't a good Radio Row without one Dick Vermeil, and each and every year you come on out there with your wine bottles. So tell us a little bit more about Vermeil wines.
Well, we're going fine. You know, we have a new winemaker in Thomas Brown, who's produced a number of 100 rated Robert Parker wines. So he's like a first round pick. You know, it may be the first round pick overall. He's done a great job, and he bottled our 13s for us. He's prepared and bottled our 14s, which he did make. He's made all the 15s. The 13s were in the barrel when he took over, and the 14s were going in the barrel when he took over. So now the 15s will be his product 100%. I think that's going to be a big addition to our team because he has such great credibility. And half of selling wine is the image with which it comes, you know, and if a winemaker has a great image, a great history, a great credibility, it's easier to sell it. And it'll automatically taste better if they really believe he's a good winemaker.
I always like myself a nice glass of some fine wine, and I know I've been joking about this with you over the years because I've been interviewing you ever since I've been in high school, and now I just recently graduated from Temple University, and I'm here on Fox Sports 920, the Jersey Coach. I just want to let you know I'm finally 21. I'll be 22 for next year's Super Bowl, so I look forward to sharing a nice glass of Vermeil wine with you at next year's Super Bowl in Houston.
Well, thank you. I may very well be there.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you for
Coach
the
Vermeil.
opportunity. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. There is Coach Vermeil joining us on the hotline. Fox Sports 920, The Jersey. Zach Gelb Show, 609-919-9200. So there you go. I'm surprised, though, that Dick Vermeil, and I was shocked when he thinks that Sam Bradford's going to have a really good year this year. I am so anti-Sam Bradford. I just don't like the guy.